He sat in cuffs, blood on his lip, silent, until his phone lit up. "You might want to answer that," he said. 10 minutes later, the police chief stormed in. "You just slapped the grandson of the man who owns your entire fleet." What happened next? You won't believe it. Let's start from the beginning. It was the kind of southern afternoon that felt like it was melting time itself. Thick humidity, slow winds, the scent of cut grass and car exhaust swirling through the air. In a quiet suburb of Greenville, South Carolina, 16-year-old Malik Carter jogged down Sycamore Avenue, his basketball bag bumping against his back, sneakers rhythmically hitting the sidewalk. Malik wasn't in a rush. Practice had gone late. His coach had stayed behind to run extra drills with him. Said he had real leadership potential. His jersey still stuck to his back with sweat, and he couldn't wait to get home, peel it off, and collapse under the AC. Music thumped gently in his ears. J. Cole. Something mellow. He glanced up. The intersection at Birch and 7th. Empty. No cars, no pedestrians, not even the sound of traffic. The light was red, but Malik, like any teenager in any sleepy neighborhood, figured it wouldn't matter. He stepped off the curb and crossed. And that's when he heard it. "Hey, you! Stop!" The voice wasn't just loud. It was aggressive, barking like an order from a drill sergeant. Malik flinched. He yanked out one earbud, turning. That's when he saw the police cruiser slam to a halt beside him. The tires screeched unnecessarily, burning rubber. The door burst open before the car had fully stopped. 2 white officers stepped out. Sergeant Dale Harlow, thick-necked, with a sunburned face and a permanent scowl. And Officer Brent Simmons, younger, lankier, wearing mirrored aviators despite the cloud cover. "You blind or just stupid?" Harlow snapped, his boots already thudding across the pavement. Malik froze. "I was just—" "Hands out of your pockets!" Harlow barked, and without waiting, he grabbed Malik by the arm and shoved him roughly against the hood of the squad car. His bag dropped. His other earbud fell to the ground, trailing wire like a noose. "What's going on? I didn't—" "Crossed against the light. That's a violation. Jaywalking," Harlow said. His tone wasn't about law. It was about control. He leaned into Malik's ear like he was whispering a secret. "You people think rules don't apply to you." Malik stiffened. "You people?" Wrong move. The slap came fast and loud, palm wide, knuckles grazing Malik's cheekbone. It echoed through the air like a gunshot. Malik stumbled back a step, stunned. His cheek burned, lip split, heart hammering. Officer Simmons chuckled. "Ooh, might need to teach this one some respect." Across the street, a middle-aged black woman walking her dog gasped. She dropped her phone, scrambled to pick it up, and started recording. From the corner liquor store, 2 workers poked their heads out. A couple sat in a parked car, eyes wide, one of them filming through the window. "That's a kid!" the woman screamed. "You just hit a kid!" Harlow turned, eyes cold. "He resisted." "I didn't resist," Malik cried, blood on his tongue. "I didn't do anything." Simmons had pulled out a zip tie, already preparing for an arrest. "Put your hands behind your back," he ordered. "For what?" "Obstruction, disrespecting an officer, threatening behavior." "Threatening? I didn't—" The zip tie locked around Malik's wrists. Plastic dug into skin. Inside the patrol car, Malik stared at his reflection in the plexiglass divider. His jaw was tight, blood on his lip, breathing short. But his eyes? Still calm. Because he wasn't just any 16-year-old kid. Malik Carter was a quiet kid. Honor roll, captain of the JV team. He never started trouble. But what no one in that police car knew, what Harlow and Simmons hadn't bothered to check, was the name Carter. His grandfather was Charles A. Carter, former defense contractor, CEO of Carter Holdings, the man whose company supplied the entire Greenville Police Department with their fleet of squad cars, tactical vans, and even surveillance drones. Every cruiser bore the mark of Carter Logistics. Every lease agreement went through Charles' office. But Malik never bragged. He never flexed the name. He just wanted to play ball, get a scholarship, and make his family proud. Back in the patrol car, Harlow tossed Malik's backpack into the front seat like garbage. "I've had enough of these smart-ass kids," he muttered. "Act like they run the damn streets." Simmons nodded. "Let's book him. Maybe Juvie will knock some sense into him." They didn't see the texts lighting up Malik's phone. They didn't hear the ringtone vibrating against the metal of the dashboard. They had no idea who they just laid hands on. Outside, the small crowd that had gathered wasn't dispersing. The woman with the dog had gone live on Facebook. She zoomed in on Harlow's badge. "This is Officer Harlow of Greenville PD. He just hit a kid for jaywalking." Another bystander shouted, "You messed up, man. That boy's gonna own this whole city when he's done with you." But Harlow didn't care. Not yet. Inside the station, Malik was marched past desks and water coolers into holding. A few officers looked up. One squinted. "Hey, is that—" "No questions," Simmons snapped. Harlow shoved Malik onto a bench. "Sit tight. Someone will come explain how the real world works." Malik wiped his lip with his shoulder. He didn't cry. He didn't beg. He didn't yell. He waited. He knew a storm was coming. Not for him, for them. The fluorescent lights inside the Greenville police station buzzed with a cold, lifeless tone. Malik sat handcuffed on a metal bench in the processing room, the zip ties digging into his wrists, the ache from the slap still pulsing on his cheekbone. But more than that, he felt something deeper. Not fear, disbelief. He had always known the world wasn't fair. His grandfather had made that clear. "Don't expect justice, Malik," Charles Carter once told him. "Learn how to command it." But still, being hit like that, treated like a threat, like nothing, for crossing an empty street, that part never got easier. In the front office, Sergeant Harlow leaned back in his chair, arms behind his head like he just won a prize fight. His boots were muddy, his vest was undone, and a lukewarm cup of gas station coffee steamed beside the computer. "Write him up," he told Officer Simmons, who was pecking at the keyboard like it owed him money. "Jaywalking, resisting, and throw in disorderly conduct. These punks always mouth off." Simmons chuckled, not even glancing up. Kid looked like he was going to cry. Probably never been cuffed in his life. "He's about to learn," Harlow said. "They all got to learn." It wasn't about the law. It never was. It was about dominance, power, ego. Harlow had been on the force for 18 years, long enough to build a reputation and smart enough to dodge every IA complaint. He called it community control. Others called it something else, but never to his face. And today, he thought he'd just done another favor for the city. He had no idea what he'd stepped into. Back in holding, Malik sat quietly. Every sound in the station echoed louder than it needed to. The slam of a drawer, the beeping of a fax, the heavy tread of boots across linoleum. His phone buzzed in the evidence bin across the room, vibrating against metal, over and over. Simmons glanced at it lazily. "Somebody's blowing this kid up," he muttered. Harlow sneered. "Probably his little girlfriend. Maybe she wants to file a missing persons report already." Another buzz, then another, then a call. The name on the caller ID read, Pop Pop Simmons squinted. "What kind of name is that?" Harlow shrugged. "Whatever. Ignore it." But Malik lifted his eyes. Quietly, calmly, and said the first thing since being brought in. "You might want to answer that." Simmons snorted. "Excuse me?" "I said," Malik repeated, voice steady as a drumline. "You might want to answer that call?" Harlow stood, slowly, walked over, pulled open the drawer, looked at the phone, then back at Malik. "You got a rich uncle or something?" Malik didn't blink. Not exactly. He didn't have to say it. Because just then another officer, Lieutenant Ramirez, a sharp woman in her 40s, burst through the double doors, holding a phone to her ear. Her face was pale. "Where's Sergeant Harlow?" Harlow frowned. "Here. What's going on?" She handed him the phone. "Take it now." He put it to his ear. "Yeah, this is—" Then silence, his jaw clenched. His eyes darted to Malik, then to Simmons, then back to Ramirez. "You sure?" He listened a moment longer, then hung up, turned away, and swore under his breath. The ripple effect began instantly. Chief of Police Gerald Whitmore was on his way to the station, unannounced. That never happened, and he wasn't coming alone. 2 men in suits arrived first, Mitchell Reed and Aaron Feldman, attorneys from the Carter Holdings legal team. They didn't ask questions. They gave orders. "This is not a negotiation," Mitchell said coldly. "You've assaulted the grandson of Mr. Charles Carter, majority vendor for your department's entire motor fleet." Simmons blinked. "Wait, what?" "He owns your cars," Aaron clarified, gesturing at the parking lot. "Your precinct depends on his contracts. His logistics company leases everything from your surveillance vans to your riot gear storage." Silence. Harlow stood frozen. Ramirez stepped aside as the chief finally arrived. "What the hell happened here?" No one spoke. The chief looked at Malik, at the split lip, the cuff marks, then back at Harlow. "You touched him?" He was resisting." "Is there video?" One of the bystanders' live streams had already been uploaded and shared across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Over 200,000 views in the first hour. The chief turned to a desk officer. "Get me that video and body cam footage. Now." Malik finally spoke again. "Am I being charged?" The room fell silent. The chief cleared his throat. "No. You're free to go." Harlow stepped forward. "You're letting him go? After—" "Sit down, Sergeant." Simmons tried to shrink into the wall. Charles Carter hadn't arrived yet, but his presence was already dismantling the room. The suits represented power, but his silence was heavier than any shouting, because when Charles Carter decided to speak, cities listened. In Washington, they called him the quiet billionaire. A defense supplier turned logistics mogul, the man who once helped coordinate aid to military bases in Europe, and now owned half the fleet contracts in the Southeast. And Malik? He was the only grandson, the one Charles called my future. In the evidence room, Simmons tried to whisper to Harlow. "This is bad." Harlow didn't answer. His hands were shaking. For the first time in years, he wasn't in control. He'd always operated with the assumption that no one would question him, that the badge made him bulletproof. But now, every decision, every slap, every lie on a police report, every moment of unchecked arrogance was about to cost him. Because this time he hadn't picked the right victim. He'd picked the one kid he should have never laid a hand on. Malik stood as the cuffs were finally removed. He rolled his wrists, flexing his hands, gaze never leaving Harlow. "Do you remember what you said?" he asked quietly. "That I'd learned today?" Harlow looked away. Malik walked past him, past Simmons, past the other officers who suddenly couldn't meet his eyes. "You're right," he said, pausing at the door. "I did learn something." And then he was gone. But his shadow stayed behind, and it grew longer by the minute. The next morning, the air in the Greenville Police Department was different. Tense. Thicker. Like the building itself knew something was about to break. Phones buzzed nonstop. Civilian calls, internal affairs, media. Even the mayor's office had left a voicemail. The slap that Sergeant Dale Harlow delivered to Malik Carter had gone viral. And not just local viral. We're talking nationwide. 12.6 million views overnight. Trending on X, Reddit, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. Hashtags exploding. Hashtag slap of shame. Hashtag justice for Malik. Hashtag this is why. March, and the station? Silent. Everyone was watching, waiting, pretending not to notice the fire that had started inside their own walls. Internal Affairs opened a file. Not quietly this time. They wanted everything. Body cam footage, arrest reports, dash cam data, complaints filed against Harlow and Simmons from the last 5 years. And what started as a spark quickly became an inferno. At 9:04 a.m., a black SUV with government plates pulled into the back parking lot. Out stepped Charles A. Carter. No security, no entourage, just presence. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He walked straight past the front desk and straight into the chief's office. Not a word. The kind of power that doesn't need permission. Behind him came his legal team. Suits sharper than scalpels, briefcases full of receipts. Meanwhile, in the squad room, Harlow was sweating. Not visibly, not yet. But inside, his hands were cold. He kept scrolling through his phone, watching the video in silence. Harlow slapping Malik, Harlow barking, Simmons laughing, the crowd screaming. The comment section was a war zone. These are the people we're supposed to trust? That boy handled it better than most grown men. Respect. He stayed calm while that cop lost his damn mind. They better get fired, or sued, or both. Even cops from other cities were condemning it. Bro, this is bad, Simmons muttered beside him. Like, career-ending bad. I didn't even hit him that hard, Harlow hissed. People get slapped harder at home. That's not the point, man. He's the grandson of... I know who he is, Harlow snapped. Now shut up and let me think. But there wasn't much time left. Because inside the conference room, Mr. Carter had already played his first card. A folder. Simple. Black leather. Inside, over 24 sworn statements from civilians claiming harassment, physical intimidation, and excessive force at the hands of Sergeant Harlow. Most of them had gone nowhere. Dismissed. Buried. But now, each one was evidence. And Carter's voice was cold when he spoke. I didn't come here to threaten. I came to hold accountable. You've built your department on my fleet, my infrastructure. Now let's see what you do when that foundation starts to crumble. The chief, red-faced, leaned forward. We're initiating full suspension protocol, effective immediately. Carter didn't flinch. Not good enough. Elsewhere in the city, news vans parked outside the department. Protesters gathered with handmade signs. We stand with Malik. Fire Harlow and Simmons. Not one more. A petition to remove both officers passed 300,000 signatures in under 6 hours. The city was on fire. But the department, cracking from within. At 11:27 a.m., Malik walked in. This time by choice. This time with a calm more powerful than any weapon. He wore a gray hoodie. No brand logos, no bodyguards, just confidence. On either side of him, his grandfather's attorneys, flanking like chess rooks. Every officer who passed him glanced away, except Harlow. They locked eyes, and Malik stopped. Funny, ain't it? He said. One day you're slamming me on your hood. The next you're hoping no one recognizes your face. Harlow didn't respond. Because what could he say? That he didn't mean it? That he lost control? That he thought Malik was just another kid? Inside the hearing room, Internal Affairs sat down with both officers. The body cam footage, once inconclusive in older reports, now displayed in 4K on a mounted screen. Sergeant Harlow, the IA director began, do you deny this footage reflects your behavior? That's not the full story, he replied. The kid was a 16-year-old, walking home. No weapon, no threat. But your response was violent, unlawful, and racially motivated. Simmons tried to deflect. I didn't touch him. But you laughed, someone countered. While a child was bleeding, that makes you complicit. Every excuse fell apart. Every lie peeled back. Every smirk dissolved. The order came at 2:16 p.m. Effective immediately, Sergeant Dale Harlow and Officer Brent Simmons are relieved of duty pending full disciplinary review and litigation. But that wasn't the part that broke them. It was how it happened. Their guns? Confiscated in front of their peers. Badges? Removed by the same chief who once praised them. Cars? Disabled. Carter Holdings cut access to all GPS-linked patrol cruisers. A single line echoed through the station's speakers. Access denied. As Harlow was led out of the building, someone shouted from the crowd, How's it feel to get treated like the people you abuse? Another yelled, Malik's got more class in his pinky than you had in your whole career. And Malik? He didn't smile. He just watched. Calm, cold, focused, like his grandfather taught him. In the local news, anchors could barely keep up. This afternoon, in a shocking turn of events, 2 Greenville officers were suspended after viral footage revealed use of excessive force against a 16-year-old African-American student, who, it turns out, is the grandson of prominent defense contractor Charles Carter. And Twitter? Melting. Malik Carter just ended 2 careers with a look. Don't mess with the quiet ones, especially when their family owns your precinct. This is how you fight the system, with evidence, with power, with grace. By the end of the day, the station was reeling. The chief locked himself in his office. The mayor issued a public apology, and Charles Carter, he wasn't done. The week that followed felt like a funeral, not for a life, but for a career. For a reputation, for a man who once strutted through the halls of the Greenville Police Department like he owned the building. Sergeant Dale Harlow had been suspended, stripped of his badge, and made the face of a national scandal. But the worst part? Nobody came to defend him. Not the chief, not the union, not even the officers he once mentored. Because when the tide turns in America, when the system finally bleeds on camera, the sharks don't hesitate. Harlow sat alone in his house, a 1-story rental on the edge of the city, blinds drawn tight, his front porch now a graveyard of delivery notices, angry letters, and one unforgettable package. Inside, a single envelope, no return address. Thought your badge made you untouchable. Guess you were wrong. He didn't cry. Men like Harlow don't cry. But the silence got loud. No more phone calls, no more power. He tried to call the department. No one picked up. He emailed Simmons. The message bounced, and when he tried to call the chief, the number was disconnected. Meanwhile, Malik Carter stood at the podium of his school auditorium, dressed in a crisp black button-up, sleeves rolled to the elbow. Students, parents, teachers, local media. All filled the hall. He'd been invited to speak at a youth forum on rights, authority, and responsibility. But Malik didn't read a speech. He didn't shout. He didn't even mention Harlow by name. He just told the truth. Power is loud, but justice is calm. It doesn't scream. It doesn't slap. It proves. And that day, I didn't fight with my fists. I waited, because the system will protect you if you learn how it works. If you stay calm, if you stay smart, if you remember who you are, even when they try to make you forget. The audience stood, roared, teachers cried, local reporters called it one of the most composed public speeches ever given by a high school student. CNN picked it up within 24 hours. Charles Carter watched the entire thing from home. He didn't say a word, but when the applause hit, he leaned forward in his chair, whispered to himself, "That's my grandson." Back at City Hall, the dominoes continued to fall. Internal Affairs concluded its review with multiple sustained violations against Harlow. Excessive force, abuse of authority, racial profiling, falsification of records. Civil lawsuits began to pour in, not just from Malik's legal team, but from other individuals whose complaints had been buried over the years. And because Carter Holdings had now publicly withdrawn their police fleet contract, the city faced a logistical nightmare. No replacement vehicles. Budget shortfalls. Emergency procurement meetings. The mayor himself had to make a statement. "We're working tirelessly to rebuild trust. This administration condemns all forms of abuse and is committed to real reform." But for many, it was too late. And Harlow? He showed up to one final meeting, not in uniform, in a wrinkled button-up and old khakis, hair disheveled, eyes bagged. He pleaded with the disciplinary board for retirement benefits. 18 years of service, he croaked. I messed up, but I gave everything to this department. One of the board members, a woman he once humiliated during training, replied coldly, "You gave everything? Or you took everything you could until someone finally said stop?" They denied his appeal. No pension, no severance, just a termination letter, and a lifetime of being Googled as the slap cop. Later that month, the Greenville Civil Rights Committee hosted their first ever Youth Integrity Gala, honoring young leaders in the community. Malik Carter was the final recipient of the night. For bravery without violence, for dignity in the face of oppression, for proving that strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just stands still. As he accepted the award, flashbulbs popped. His family stood to the side, his mother in tears, his grandfather stone-faced but proud. Then, a surprise. A representative from the Department of Education stepped forward. "We're awarding Malik Carter a full scholarship to the university of his choice, public leadership, political science, or wherever his heart takes him. We need people like him shaping the future." The crowd erupted again, but Malik didn't smile big. He just nodded. "Thank you, not just for this, but for listening." But that wasn't the final scene. The final scene came quietly, a rainy afternoon. Charles and Malik walking together through the backlot of Carter Holdings HQ. No cameras, no press, just family. Malik asked, "Did you always know something like this would happen?" Charles paused, looked out at the city skyline. "I knew something would. The question was whether you'd break or build." Malik nodded. "I think I want to keep building. Then you'll need enemies. That's how you know you're doing it right." They stopped. Charles handed him a small silver key. "To the City Car Fleet Archives. I want you to oversee the transition to new vendors. You're ready." Malik took it, not as revenge, not as victory, but as responsibility. Because the price of arrogance wasn't just a career. It was a wake-up call to a city, a system, and maybe even a country. Final YouTube comment. Highlight. He didn't yell, he didn't fight, he didn't even raise his voice. He let the system show its own sickness, and he let the world watch it heal.